What's going on, guys? Gabe with ReviewDork. So we have the middleweights here, the iPad Air versus the Galaxy Tab S7. These two tablets will be fighting for your attention this holiday season. And if you already own one of these incredible devices, then feel free to chime in on the comment section below. Let us know your most favorite feature, tip, or trick, or maybe just leave a funny comment and I might give one of these away. Now, we did the iPad Pro versus the Samsung Galaxy Tab S7 Plus comparison. In that video, we did that some time ago, and just recently, the iPad Air released, and we've been playing with this. It's pretty incredible. And so we wanted to know, how does it fare against the Samsung Tab S7? Now, we picked this up this weekend at Best Buy. It was on sale. I got it for $100 off, I believe. And stay tuned for that, you guys. There's bound to be more sales leading up to Black Friday. But this is the little brother to the Galaxy Tab S7 Plus. And we will compare the price, the build, the quality, specs, the cameras, benchmarks, and usage cases. And finally, leave it up to you to decide which one is worth your hard-earned cash. So first up, we have the Galaxy Tab S7. And this is in Mystic Black. Not quite too sure if that looks Mystic Black. Get it in different color variants. You get Mystic Black, Mystic Silver, and Mystic Bronze. Now, this does come with Wi-Fi 6 support and Bluetooth 5.0 connectivity, so you can connect your Bluetooth gaming controllers, headsets, speakers, anything you want to throw at it. You can connect it, and the benefit of Bluetooth 5.0 is extended range, so you don't have to feel like you're tethered to the tablet. Now, the 5G variant supports 5G millimeter wave and sub-6, so if you always need to be connected, the Tab S7 5G might be for you. This model is the Wi-Fi variant, powered by an 8,000 milliamp hour battery, 6 gigs of RAM, 6 gigs of RAM, and 128 gigabytes of storage. Now, you can opt for 256 or 512 gigs of storage, and those models give you 8 gigs of RAM. Personally, I think 6 gigs of RAM is more than enough for most of you. I would not pick up the larger native storage devices because you do have the ability to add additional storage up to 1 terabyte with a micro SD card, which does save you money versus opting for the larger storage variants. And again, it's just the cost doesn't add up. And personally, we love the Samsung Evo Select 512 gigabyte micro SD with up to 100 megabyte per second read and write. And I'll include that link down in the description, so make sure you guys go ahead and check that out. The S7 comes with an 11-inch LTPS TFT 120Hz refresh rate display with a resolution of 2560 by 1600. And if you lost me there, it's basically an LED, whereas the S7 Plus comes with the larger 12-inch Super AMOLED display, and basically it's just an OLED. My God, what a difference a few inches made. That's what she said. The chassis is 10 inches in length, 6.5 inches wide, and 1/4 of an inch thick, weighing in at 1.1 pounds. And so this is a really light tablet. And actually, just holding the S7 Plus, you could really feel the difference in weight. And I think that this would probably be the preferred tablet for most of you. This slab of glass is powered by the Snapdragon 865 Plus, which is the best chip on offering from anything Android. So just keep that in mind. 865 Plus, that's the latest and greatest. That's what you're gonna get in this tablet. Starting at $649 with 128 gigs of storage and an included S Pen, the Galaxy Tab S7 comes out of the gate as a value winner. Apple's got something to say about this. So next up, we have the challenger, or should we say the champion of all things tablet, the iPad Air. We recently did a review on the iPad Air, and that link is in the description. And we walked away pretty impressed. For the color variants, you're getting silver, space gray, rose gold, green, and sky blue. And as I said in a previous video, shout out to Apple for some tasteful color choices. This chassis is 9¼ inches in length, 7 inches wide, and just shy of a 1/4 inch thick. I believe is 0.24 inches and weighing in at 1 pound. So you do have a mobile variant with 4G LTE connectivity, but it does not include 5G, although you do get Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.0 technology. The iPad Air comes with 4 gigs of RAM and only 2 flavors of storage, 64 gigabytes and 256 gigabytes. And unlike the Tab S7, you cannot add additional storage. And for some who are avid users of cloud-based storage services, well, that might not be a deal breaker for you. Applejax, do you use cloud-based storage?
All the time.
Alright, I guess it's just the new norm. The display is a vibrant 10.9 inch 2360 by 1640 pixel resolution LED backlit 60Hz multi-touch display with IPS technology. It's got a cool anti-reflective coating, and you'd only appreciate it once you see it in action. Here with the overhead cam, I'm sure, Applejax, we can get that there. We'll make sure there's some B-roll included, but yeah, this coating is everything. Now, Apple claims up to 500 nits of brightness, but in our testing, we were able to hit closer to 430 and 440 nits. And of course, the star of the show is the A14 Bionic chipset, hands down the most powerful mobile chip on Earth, hands down. It's second to none, and more on that in a second. The iPad Air starts at $599, but does not include the Apple Pencil, so expect additional costs for the pencil and the keyboard. Let's talk display, because I think for tablets, that's probably one of the most important things, right? So the Galaxy Tab S7 has 152% sRGB coverage in vivid mode and 111% in natural color mode. So different modes, different sRGB coverages. So for those who are into color grading or photo editing, you probably want to be in vivid mode. Just gives you more exposure to all the colors. Now, the iPad Air utilizes a wide color display, better known as P3, and this is touted as the future of color. And to be honest, it probably is. P3 has a color gamut that is at least 25% wider than sRGB, making the imagery and color reproduction seem much closer to what we see in real life. This is what we see in the display comparison, where the iPad Air looks considerably brighter than the Galaxy Tab S7, despite the S7 having 500 nits of brightness versus the iPad Air's 430 nits. With the Tab S7, you do have the ability to play HDR content at 1440p, whereas with the iPad Air, you now have the option to watch YouTube in 4K. I call this a null spec, considering how small the displays are. The ability to discern between 2K and 4K would nearly be impossible. But how about that anti-reflective display though? It's just wow to me. Sure, the S7's brightness can power its way through almost any lighting environment, but the iPad Air takes it a step further with this anti-reflective coating. And guys, like I said, you gotta see it to believe it. Head on over to Best Buy, head on over to the Apple Store, and just get a sample. Just demo it, all right? Now, Samsung, not to be outdone, supports 120Hz refresh rates. And this means the screen just feels smoother, the scrolling feels more natural, and it gives the device like the impression that it's much snappier and faster. And I like to call that like an optical illusion. But playing games at 120Hz versus 60Hz is definitely a welcome change. As for the pens, battle of the pens, the Samsung Tab S7 wins out with a 9 millisecond pen to eye latency versus the 16.6 millisecond pen to eye latency found on the iPad Air. Now, for those who are wondering why that might be the case, it's just inherent of the 60Hz display. I have to say, the build of both devices are almost identical, both sporting thin bezels, a fingerprint scanner, and the coveted USB-C connection. Both devices are made of aluminum and sharing a very similar industrial design. I mean, Applejack took his glasses off because I think he felt like he was having double vision. The iPad Air seems to imply that he would hold it in portrait mode since the camera and fingerprint reader are placed in a way that would make holding the device upright just more intuitive. The Tab S7 takes a different approach, with the camera placed on its long side and the fingerprint reader on the top left corner, and that is like inviting landscape. I mean, you just naturally want to pick it up this way. Now, the fingerprint reader on the Tab S7 is probably a generation ahead of Apple's Touch ID. Not only is Apple's placement odd, unless you are in portrait mode where you're pressing the button here. Now, the Tab S7 seems to unlock faster, and the Tab S7 has the extra trick in the bag with facial recognition, making the Tab S7 feel like it's always ready to go. I would have to say that just a little trick or pointer for those who have an iPad Air would want to scan your right pointer finger, and for those using a Samsung Galaxy Tab S7, you would want to scan your left pointer finger. The speakers are impressive on the Tab S7, tuned by AKG, and we recorded a peak dB of 90 decibels versus the 84 decibels on the iPad Air. The Tab S7 hands down wins with better bass, mids, and highs. And Applejack, I mean, what's your opinion on that?
So when I was doing the testing, the Tab definitely beats it in every department just because it has 4 speakers, and it shows on the iPad that there are 4 speakers, but only 2 of them are actually working.
Okay, Mr. Peabody has spoken, but we have to throw it right back to Mr. Peabody because he collected our benchmarks using GFX Bench and Geekbench. And so, Mr. Peabody, tell us.
All right, so according to my notes, on Geekbench 5, the iPad Air scored a multi-core score of 4186 and a single-core score of 1593 compared to the Galaxy Tab S7 3218 multi-core score and 969 single-core score. And in GFX Bench, the Galaxy Tab S7 scored 22 frames per second in the Aztec Ruins high tier compared to the iPad's 33 frames per second.
The A14 Bionic is a monster of a chip, guys, but as I stated in the last video, just because you have a high performance car with 1,000 horsepower and a top speed of 260 miles per hour doesn't mean you're ever going to use all those ponies and ever really get that fast. I mean, Applejack, aren't you limited to like 75 miles per hour in your car?
Technically, it's 79 miles per hour.
And you want to let the audience know why?
Because it saves money on car insurance.
Let's talk about the cameras really quick, and you guys can see here we have a slight camera bump, but the Tab S7 main camera has a 13 megapixel f2.0 26mm lens and a 5 megapixel f2.2 12mm ultra wide lens. Specs are just specs, but these are capable of shooting 4K video at 30 frames per second. A little disappointed that we can't shoot at 24 frames per second. But yeah, the selfie camera is no slouch. With an 8 megapixel f2.0 26mm wide lens, and this can record up to 1080p at 30 frames per second. So chances are you're going to be the best looking person in your Zoom meeting, hands down. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're using the Tab S7 or the iPad Air. So the iPad Air has a single lens camera on the rear, a 12 megapixel wide camera, an f1.8 lens capable of 4K video up to 60 frames per second, and yes, you can shoot 24 frames per second on this as well. Now the front-facing FaceTime HD camera, or selfie camera, a 7 megapixel f2.2 lens capable also of recording 1080p at 60 frames per second. So if you guys want to get your facial expressions in slow-mo, you can do it, 1080p at 60 frames. But Apple, damn you, your computational photography is second to none. As you can see, it just seems to do more than what the spec sheet implies, thanks to the new image signal processor found on the A14 Bionic. But this is where it gets interesting, because both devices will allow you to use zoom in 1080p, although we prefer the placement of the camera on the Tab S7. But the picture quality of the iPad Air, I think I do prefer the picture quality of the iPad Air, right? But again, just not by much. I mean, if your boss is going to fire you over Zoom, he's not really going to care what you look like. But the Tab S7 will let you multitask a Zoom meeting while working on a spreadsheet or surfing the internet, thanks to Samsung DeX, proving that although DeX has some room to grow, iPadOS has some ground to cover. Finally, the price. The iPad Air with the Magic Keyboard and the Apple Pencil will set you back a cool $1,093.76. Apparently, the Galaxy Tab S7 ships with a free Mocha XP controller, but add a book cover keyboard. I hate saying that, book cover keyboard. Everything, including the pen, sets you back $849.98. And by the way, guys, the pen is included, so you don't have to worry about spending $129 on a second generation Apple Pencil. So in conclusion, the iPad does a lot of things right, and so does the Tab S7. Now the iPad is more powerful with a better CPU, but the S7 comes standard with more storage and the ability to add more if needed. The iPad has better color reproduction thanks to the P3 color gamut, but the Tab S7 has the faster, smoother display. And if you haven't experienced 120 Hz, it also comes with HDR and uses a more standard sRGB color gamut. So I can appreciate that, and I'm here in front of the camera fiddling through the menu on this damn tab. My hands are just getting in the way of everything. The iPad Air does have a better keyboard, but the Tab S7 has better battery life. Our studio testing is clocking the S7 with 10 hours and the iPad Air with 5.5 hours of battery life. The iPad Air has a more capable GPU. Tab S7 will allow for Xbox Game Pass for streaming your favorite Xbox game, and currently this is not supported by Apple. Truth is, the gap between these two devices are smaller than ever. And I think it's just a matter of what ecosystem you're committed to and your budget. Personally, I call this a draw. And Applejacks, I mean, what do you think? What would you call this?
I don't know if I'm being a little biased. I'd still give the edge to the iPad.
Okay, so Applejacks is having issues in his life right now, and he doesn't really know what he truly wants. And he was a big Android fan, got converted to iOS, and hey, it's happened to the best of us. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. This is Gabe with ReviewDork. I'm signing out. Peace.